All right, I think that we're going to start, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, officially.
Officially, we're starting. This is the Salesforce Incubator talk that we do every week here at the Salesforce Incubator. With me today is Mike from the Incubator. He is the man in the Incubator, the director.
The managing director, yeah.
The managing director. He's the main guy here. And we have Ilit, the CEO of Joonko.
Hi.
And we're going to recap TrailheaDX a little bit, and maybe Mike has some information about cohort 3 for us today.
Definitely want to plug that since we're in the final week of applications.
Yeah, so I think TrailheaDX was really cool. I was very pleasantly surprised. I was really happy to see a lot of code on big screens that were in common areas,
including in the keynote.
Yeah, exactly. Which is, that's not the kind of things that you see at Dreamforce anymore. It's even hard to find like hardcore development architecture sessions at Dreamforce now. But anyway, I really enjoyed it. There was like really good energy, kind of Dreamforce type energy. A lot of people were there, and we had really cool participation from the incubator. We had all the incubator companies there at the startup Valley.
Sure. Yeah. So we had a panel. What we did was we put together a session that had a few of our companies that are actually in market working with customers already, delivering, if you wish, AI right now, not waiting until everything's completely baked out. And we actually talked about some of the use cases. So it was a relatively small audience there, because we were in one of the smaller arenas, but it was pretty much,
I think there was still like maybe 60, 70 people.
Yeah, it was packed for its venue, but everybody was engaged, I think, to really understand kind of how AI is being used in the enterprise today.
Yeah.
And specifically, we had some use cases that came up with Prediction.io in particular, and one of our SIs that we have in here has active projects that they're doing right now. So it was interesting to actually hear from them in terms of how they're actually utilizing Einstein on the application side in terms of the features that we've actually delivered, augmenting that with additional functionality that they're delivering via Prediction.io.
Right. Yeah, and I think one of the cool questions that was asked from the Einstein team is what's in your wish list?
Yes.
Which I thought that was pretty cool. And
yeah, with Phil Cooper in the audience, he was
exactly.
he's the one who put that one out there, and I was willing to give the mic out to anyone that wanted to shout out.
Yeah, and I think that one of the panelists said API, which was, that's my flag. I'm waving that flag all the time. More APIs, the more we can like do really heavy-duty stuff with Einstein from, stuff that is not baked.
Yeah, and that's actually a good lead-in to some of the announcement at Dreamforce. I don't know if you have a wrap-up that you guys have put together.
Which announcements?
In terms of the Einstein features, specifically about
right.
sentiment and intent in terms of the APIs that are available right now.
Right, so the new APIs that just came out that are in beta, public beta, are sentiment, intent, and object detection. So those are all, I believe, MetaMind.
Through the MetaMind acquisition. All rolled up under Einstein now.
Exactly, but they are available as APIs. So those are, I think it's unknown exactly how the licensing is going to go not per user probably, but per transaction. But it's going to be all API based at least for right now. Mm-hmm. And actually, the CRM science team is kind of putting together an accelerator to actually be able to use those tools really quickly.
Right.
We're deep into that already.
Yeah. I look forward to seeing that at the incubator, right? We're going to do a talk here about that?
Absolutely. We'll do that probably at the next demo jam.
Excellent. That's coming up.
Yeah, that's right.
Got to set the date in the next week or so.
That's right. Let's get Ilit here. You were at a panel with who was it?
Tony Profit and
Tony
others.
Profit.
Why don't you tell us about that?
Tell us.
So it was a quality panel Tony Profit, who is the new Chief Diversity and Equality of Salesforce, led the panel with two other CEOs participating, talking about the importance of the topic for Salesforce and the Salesforce community, but also about implementations that's happening outside the Salesforce community. One of them actually grew up within the Salesforce community. We have a deep connection, obviously, to Salesforce being part of the incubator, but also having a connection with Salesforce to allow companies to using that. And the third person was about helping kids that are being used as sexual traffic back from LA. And so we talked a little bit about the journey of getting into the diversity industry and how we all end up in this space, which is considered to be a relatively new thing regarding solutions that are more than someone giving you any kind of a consulting or a training, but something that is much more technical and looks much more of the other business side aspect that we see in for other department in any other company.
And things that lead to action and change versus
Yeah.
just kind of observational.
That's right. It was real different solutions for real different topics, but it was really interesting. It was also interesting to see kind of like slowly how Salesforce is getting more and more into the hands-on topic internally for the company and not just outside for the community. And I think this is like the big change we're gonna see along the way. We see today a lot of company doing stuff for the outside communities of their company. So giving money for women who code or whatever, but then at home they don't know a lot. So I think the team that Tony is now establishing is supposed to be helping a lot with internally within Salesforce,
Right.
and hopefully it will be a good example for other corporates and other companies.
Yeah, so like leading by example.
That's right. I think it's kind of like going to be pledge 1%, maybe, as seeing a good model of a company that diversity people get budget, which is not that common in most big companies, that actually be able to implement a strategy. So we talked a little bit about that. We talked a little bit about the future of diversity for companies. I spoke a little bit about, I think, the conflict that AI and diversity has. And I think this is one of the biggest challenges that we have, is most of the AI that exists today, probably also Einstein, is written by a person that has his or her own biases that are implemented into the AI. So probably even once we have everything based AI, it's kind of like the dream of everyone, I guess. We're still gonna have these biases that we see today. So I think this is gonna be one of the
So
big
mathematics
challenges.
isn't the great equalizer here.
No, unfortunately not.
That's interesting.
So how do you combat that with your product at Joonko?
So we almost don't use any outside AI models that exist today. We do think about how we're going to implement Einstein into the product. We do look into the vision aspect, which allows us to kind of like generate the data to train on, and then hopefully the data that we provide is not going to be biased. And also I think once we write the models and the patterns that we are looking into, the mindset that we are writing them are into is it biased, and we work with a few consultants and advisors for the company that come from this specific expertise, rather than you write an AI code for security systems or whatever. You don't even think about this stuff. It's like really low in your priorities, even if it even exists.
Right.
So for us, it's like the number one priority. But I think it's going to be a challenge because most of the companies you see around using AI can easily leverage existing AI platforms,
Right.
and I think for us that's going to be a challenge, just using them out of the box without doing any changes.
Is it a challenge or is that maybe an opportunity?
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking
It's
about
probably both.
That's differentiation.
Yeah,
Right?
Yeah.
Well, it's also, you can allow whatever model is selected, outcomes are created, and then you can actually then filter, couple.
That's right.
The two models. So so in other words, the Joonko system could actually be the correction.
That's right. So this is one of the things we're thinking moving forward once AI is going to be much more implemented into
unbiasing outcomes.
That's right. It's like taking the outcomes of these AI algorithms and then making sure they're not biased.
Right.
So this is kind of like the thing we're thinking, looking into the future, and not just helping companies, but actually helping the infrastructures being less biased
Right.
before they get into the company. So it's definitely an opportunity, but it's also a big challenge.
So we're going really far afield here before actually level setting with respect to Joonko.
Yeah.
I think there's, was it 2 weeks ago that you had
Guy? Yeah,
Okay.
2 or 3 weeks ago.
A few weeks ago,
Yeah, so we have kind of the Joonko story already. It's on it's actually cataloged.
It's on the blog.
On the blog and stuff like that, but why don't you give us an intro just in terms of explaining what...
So a super quick intro. So Joonko is basically an AI platform that is coaching on diversity and inclusion for companies. We basically connect to different SaaS platforms. So Salesforce is one of them, but then Jira or Asana or any task management platform, any applicant tracking system for recruiting, HR systems, Slack, emails, whatever. And we analyze the data that flies through these systems, and then in real time we engage with different people within the company with corrective actions of what we call micro events of potentially uncontent or content biases. So it can be the way you split opportunities on your Salesforce platform between your salespeople or your SDRs.
Right.
But at the same time, it can be who do you move forward within the recruiting pipeline and why, how many people even apply to this job because of the text or the places you're posting in it. So yeah, this is what we're looking into, and we just celebrated our first birthday yesterday.
Oh wow!
Nice.
Congratulations!
Thank you.
I didn't see the cake.
Me neither.
No, where was the cake?
We'll have to get one.
Me neither.
So I mean, that was your first, TrailheaDX was your first Salesforce experience.
Yeah, so Ilit comes from Israel.
That's right.
Moved here specifically for the incubator.
That's right.
For the program.
Yeah.
And then within 60 days walks into a Salesforce event.
That's right.
It was actually the second showing for Joonko. Because you were actually invited. Guy was invited to speak at our Salesforce World Tour in Boston.
That's right, in Boston. But for me, this was my first Salesforce event. I don't think you have any event in Israel. This was my first event.
No, I've actually been to an event in Tel Aviv. Yes.
All right.
There's a user group in Tel Aviv actually.
All right. So I've never been to any of them. It was the first time. It was for sure super impressive. I learned tons of stuff I didn't know Salesforce was even doing, like the VR stuff and the e-commerce and all the cool stuff that were around that I had no idea. For me, Salesforce up until now was a CRM platform.
Right. Which I think is...
and maybe Einstein and the AI just because we're using it.
Very normal misconception.
So for me, it was like a CRM and then the Einstein piece along or on top or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's the only thing that I knew about Salesforce, even coming into the incubator.
Right.
And then I think during the Trailhead, it was an awesome experience. I experienced most of the products, tried a Trailhead a little bit and play with it.
So you went into our corral where you could actually do the hands-on stuff?
Yeah, I did the diversity models on the Trailhead.
Oh, very good. So you got your badge? You got your diversity badge?
I did.
Congrats.
And we're also playing with other stuff, and they had this hands-on opportunity for the Einstein APIs a little bit, which was great as well.
Right.
So yeah, it was definitely a great experience.
That's good. That's like your first step towards Dreamforce.
Yeah.
Because now internally at least we're all focused on what Dreamforce is going to mean for us. We're actually just starting the internal prep, so stay tuned for that. We'll give you at least some sneak peeks. We don't want to let everything out of the bag in terms of what we're doing, but we're just starting the planning for that right now.
Yeah, and you know, TrailheaDX is kind of like, for most people, it's a big conference, but Dreamforce is like a giant conference, so that's even more overwhelming. So it's good.
How many people supposed to be in?
Well, let's put it this way. You know how many people were there? You don't have to know the numbers, but just imagine TrailheaDX times 20.
That's right.
Okay, roughly speaking.
Yeah.
Even a little bit more.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to imagine. It really takes over the entire city.
Yeah, it's not only Moscone West where TrailheaDX was, but also north, south, some of the new areas that they're building. Maybe?
Actually, for this year, it's possible because there's a lot of activity in Moscone right now in terms of expanding the facility.
And all the hotels around, so it's like probably 10 hotels around, all full of Salesforce stuff.
That's right. If anybody needs a place to stay, I'll Airbnb a room at my house. Might be very expensive, but no, sorry, I can't benefit from that.
You may have to.
It's crazy time, but it'll all be good.
Yeah. So actually, at Dreamforce, you're gonna start cohort 3, and
That's a good segue to actually start talking about cohort 3.
And
so we're in actually the final week right now of applications. So specifically, cohort 3, the theme is industries, and we've selected 3 key industries of great importance, if you wish, for Salesforce, but also for our customers. That's really where the kind of the action happens in terms of getting innovation into the hands of customers. So we're looking for solutions around the HLS space, so healthcare and life sciences, the retail space, which is an upcoming space for Salesforce right now. We actually have a couple of companies in cohort 2, and we had one in cohort 1 that was in the retail space, so it's nice to see us focusing more on that. And then financial services, so fintech, which is actually our oldest vertical at Salesforce, the most mature. So lots of customers there already that are hungry and looking for additional innovation. What's interesting is that coming out of cohort 2 right now, we're actually going to be graduating as Einstein, if you wish, matures to that first kind of GA level in terms of access to these APIs and more information about packaging and features and all that sort of stuff. And that will be a nice feeder into cohort 3. So just from a timing perspective, cohort 2, the graduation date is the end of September. We then have October to kind of get things in order. And then what we're going to be doing is onboarding the new class right before Dreamforce, the week before Dreamforce. So we start at the end of October with orientation. And then what we'll do is something to be determined, but we'll have Startup Valley again at Dreamforce, which is where we're going to unveil new cohort, introduce them to the ecosystem, and also do something special for the previous cohorts.
Ooh.
And that's ultimately, so yeah, that's cohort 2 and cohort 1.
That's right.
And what's interesting there is that we can even go back to the App Exchange arena 10 plus years ago, where we actually ran 4 cohorts over a couple of years. And what's interesting about that class right now is 23 of those 37 companies that came through that have had successful acquisitions.
Wow.
At this point. So it's kind of interesting to see 10 years forward.
Right.
So I'm toying with some ideas here about how we could actually bring together the collective mix, many of which are well-known industry leaders right now with respect to the Salesforce ecosystem.
Right.
So we'll talk more about that. Maybe what we'll do is we'll have an open discussion on that here at the Incubator.
Yeah.
On one of our events during the networking time.
So that's a really good teaser.
Teaser.
How do people actually submit for the cohort?
So we have everything is online. We have an online application. Most of the work is actually done there. The important thing is that you actually get your application in by July 15th. So that's a week from tomorrow, a week from Saturday. And in terms of getting access to the application, go to our incubator page. That's salesforce.com/theincubator. THE Incubator. Not just incubator, but that incubator. There you go. So it's pretty straightforward. I mean, the questions are very specific and targeted. There's a few things that might be out of the norm. One of the things is, as Joonko can attest to, is one of the things that we actually ask is specifics around how you actually address diversity within your startup. Many startups are a little bit late to the game, so to speak, in terms of actually thinking about it. But Salesforce believes fundamentally that if you think about that in the formation of your company, it's actually a very important piece of the emerging corporate culture. Right. Having diverse views, having different backgrounds is actually going to be a benefit to delivering solutions to ultimately a diverse customer base.
Right. I think the most important part in there is that you actively think about that as part of your corporate structure and culture.
Exactly. Yeah. Extra points are awarded, by the way, for pledge 1% participation. We actually just instituted it as a batch 3, is that you agree to be a pledge 1% company by submitting the application. That's something new. So we provide you the links to the appropriate information so they can be educated on this. I don't think that I haven't experienced any startup that didn't say that they wouldn't want to. It's a question of what do I need to do.
Right.
So
which is actually not that much.
It's not that much. I mean, the whole purpose of Pledge 1% and the whole Pledge 1% idea really came out of kind of the genesis of how we created our 111 model at Salesforce. And Mark Benioff was quite visionary in terms of actually setting things out, not just by providing space or time for employees to donate time. That was a 1% of employee time. That was the first one. But it was also really thinking about, what will happen if and when we are successful. Plan, think positively and plan for the future. So that 1% of equity was critical to funding the foundation, which has provided millions of dollars in grants and direct benefit to nonprofits and other NGO-type organizations as well as individuals doing good. Mm-hmm. And that last 1%, it was really interesting because when we first started out, we were thinking, oh yeah, what we'll do is we'll donate 1% of our profits. And then as we were growing the company, we realized, well, how do you define profits when you really aren't declaring profits because you're always paying it forward by investing in growth? Right. So then we immediately went back and said, you know what we can do is we can actually estimate based upon profits how much product we can donate. And we just selected, to donate to nonprofits, NGOs. Right. That was a very simple way of doing it. And that created an entire ecosystem of nonprofits within the Salesforce ecosystem, which I think has been hugely valuable to the overall ecosystem. Customers interact with those nonprofits, partners, volunteer time. You guys have been great in terms of doing that.
We're a Pledge One. We do 3 of the ones, but again, for a startup, as you're thinking through it, that's important to think about that and think about outside of yourself a little bit. And really, to be a member of Pledge One, you just need to have one of the 1%.
Yep, one of those ones will
whatever is easiest, and then you can grow into it as you're evolving.
Yeah, I think we joined Pledge 1% as part of the Techstars ecosystem.
Great.
And at the beginning, I think it's hard to think about how you're going to do everything. And I think one of the things that is great about Pledge 1% is you can start with only one of the ones, like Ami said, and then slowly think about how you can add more and more stuff. And the easiest thing would probably be doing time. And also we had the opportunity to do it here. I'm guessing the next cohort will have the opportunity to check this one.
We're actually organizing another event for August.
All right, perfect. So I think it's important to kind of realize that you can start with one thing and slowly evolve into more and more activities. And also they're probably going to be here at the beginning of the next cohort. It's going to explain and give some more guidance.
Yeah.
So we worked with them when we just joined, and they shared a lot of information about what we can do and how we can collaborate with other early stage startups on doing something together. And it's a good thing for everyone.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
Cool. I think that's all we have today. So join us again next week at 11 Pacific or 2 p.m. Eastern Time on Friday, and as we are every week. And we'll see you. Bye.
Bye.
Peace out.